still, I don't know. All right, so it is,
Okay, we're live.
welcome back everyone. It is 7:05. Executive session ended at 7:02. There were no extensions to the executive session. No decisions were made in the executive session, and so we are reconvening the regular meeting at 7:05, and that brings us to our action item, or item number 8 on our agenda, action items for our first reading. Our first is the special event permit application for Millwood Days 2025. Ms. Castles, or?
Yes,
Yes.
Millwood Days. Everything, as you can see, is in order for the Millwood Days. They have their updated insurance in there as well. And Kyle has approved it and everything looks good to go as far as from the application standpoint.
Mr. Sanders.
And thank you for checking on our raffle business.
Oh, yes, I did. I wanted to announce on that. I did check
saw
on
that.
that. I did think I mentioned that in the report, yes. So
Yes,
yeah,
very good.
they're allowed to have 2 per year nonprofit, as long as it doesn't go over, the proceeds aren't over 5,000. And they do have one other one, but they do not exceed that. So they still have not decided for sure if they're going to do it or not, but they can if they want.
Good. Well, thank you for following up on that.
So does council wish to push this to next month, or as it is the same, does council wish to take any action on this at this time?
I suggest this is not really their second reading of this. I mean, even though it's in the first reading, because we saw it last week or last month.
I believe that was Farmers Market
Oh,
last month. This is
Okay.
the first for Millwood Days.
Okay,
Oh, okay.
so, and we can,
Okay.
Yeah,
I'm sorry,
This is for
I
Millwood
got
Days,
mixed
yeah.
up here.
first reading for this one, so there is no hurry, we've got plenty of time.
alright,
So we can wait and you can look at it again next month if you want, or whatever you wanna do.
I would make a motion to approve the special event permit application for Millwood.
I'll second.
Okay.
Moved and seconded, any discussion? Seeing or hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So that application is approved. And so that brings us to item number B, or item B, resolution 2025-06, our 6-year transportation improvement plan. Mr. Shiwi.
I think we got a slide we can put up on the screen for this one.
Oh, yes.
So we can take Brian off.
And you want the.
Bye, Brian.
And. Oh. And this one right here.
So there's not a whole heck of a lot changing on that this year. As you can see, the first 6 items on here next year will be knocking out of there, with the exception of the Empire traffic calming. That'll probably stay on there because that's probably gonna be ever changing. We did add 2 down at the bottom just to get them on people's radar. One of them was the northbound lanes at Trent and Argonne. There's that 3rd lane coming this way that merges. It's pretty sketchy. We're, as part of the TIB funding and everything for the Argonne project, we have to choke it down to 25 miles an hour, and that 3rd lane basically acts like a slingshot. I'm not gonna say I know from experience in my younger days, but it is kind of a drag race there to try to beat everybody out there, but by the time you beat them, you're well over 25 miles an hour. So I think the idea, and I think Kevin's already had some talks with WashDOT and stuff about making possibly 2 right turn lanes onto Trent on the valley side of Trent, and it sounded like they were for that.
Valley is interested, STA is interested in the idea of using that as a bus pad. There's not a lot of area for a bus pad in that on that side of the street. So they are interested in, if that lane does come out, there's been some larger, more constructive discussions with City of the Valley from the standpoint that their new, Public Works Director is the former WashDOT Eastern Region guy who is very in tune with what's going on in the WashDOT areas, and so they're trying to look at ways to, in some ways, address some of the backup they have at the for westbound turn movements from Argonne onto Trent, because nobody gets over in that far right turn lane or the far left turn pocket, and so it backs up all the way to Montgomery. So they're looking at potentially doing some other more streamlining alignments there, some things like that. So there is some discussion with that, and by putting it on the tip, we can look at it as a more robust discussion with WashDOT, City of the Valley, and ourselves as to kind of what a holistic approach for trying to rework some of that intersection is.
I had the same thought about a bus lane and access to local business, because that is useful there. Otherwise, we're gonna be blocking up again. So, but it's not funded. It's 2029. A lot can happen, but at least it's on there to do something with. That was my thought.
Yeah, can't talk about it as a project until it's put on the tip. We can't do that alley or that turn into Walgreens is ours. That is the Lilac Lane.
I believe it there, we're calling it an extension of Lilac Lane,
Well,
but
it is- I
our
mean-
utilities are in there.
Yeah, we own that. That is a public right of way through there, that whole area. So that is protected for us. So we're not gonna get rid of that. That stays there, so that entrance stays there. But it would basically stop what Kyle is referring to, and what we all see is that everybody queues up there and then tries to play chicken with people on the left side as they come screaming up there. So,
You have to turn right on Buckeye.
yeah, and then that gets into a weird, you're not really sure if you've got quite enough room to get up to Buckeye or not. Some people try and do it. So,
Okay, then our last line item on there, or no, it's not the last one. It's the second to last one, is the three-way intersection at Grace and Marguerite. There's been some issues there with traffic flying down Grace. And as you come up on Marguerite, I think Kevin might be able to explain this better, but as you come up on Marguerite at Grace, it's kind of blind as cars are coming up the hill. The school's right there. There's a lot of congestion there when they're unloading, offloading kids. So
there's also not an actual designated crosswalk at either at Marguerite and Grace, because you take the sidewalk up Marguerite, you get to Grace, and you don't cross to a curb. It's just parking spaces there. So the intent would be to take a couple of those parking spaces, make a actual crosswalk from Grace, across Grace at Marguerite, and then turn that into a full three-way stop to have people stopping as they come up off that hill, because we talked to Matt Gillis about that, and that is a actual sightline issue, because there is enough elevation difference that at speed, and I think it's even at 25, you still have a sight issue for people trying to make the left from Grace or from Marguerite onto Grace eastbound. So there's a few things in there that could use a little more formal study.
And being a softball grandfather, there's a lot of cars up there when they got two games going.
And you get people parking right up there, you get people parking right up to the curb, you get people all back through there. There's the potential that you could get some stormwater control on some other sides of the area, and that you could eliminate some of that where people are parked right up to Marguerite and Grace.
Yep.
so those are the only two additions we did this time around. That's all I have on that, I believe.
questions for Kyle on anything with chip seals, anything like that? Full depth reclamation from Trent to Frederick on Argonne.
We're still a month ahead of ourselves for adopting the resolution,
Yes,
so.
yes.
June 30th, I believe, is when I have to have it in at SRTC.
Okay,
Well, the public hearing at the next meeting.
With adoption slated for that after that. So. All right, so that takes care of item B, and now we move to item C, which is resolution 2025-07, water and sewer system charges, which is a revisions to resolution 2025-02. What basically transpired is we received the final copy of the contract from Spokane County. When we received that, we took a peruse through the contract, and there were some questions in the actual calculation area of sewer charges being calculated for non-residential. We use different terminology between water and sewer. We have residential, commercial, industrial for water service, but sewer is basically, it's either residential or non-residential because the amount of flow that the county assumes is being treated is based on ERUs and residents, equivalent residential units. ERUs are fixed for residential, but for our purposes in the county, with county treatment, their ERUs depend upon winter flow, so non-residential customers, the flow that the county expects to treat from those is calculated by taking the non-residential's winter consumption of actual water. So look at the months of January, February, March, and April of consumption for each one of our non-residential units, and then taking the average of those, and that becomes your monthly discharge to the county treatment system. The county treatment system then bills the city based on if it's 695 cubic feet or under for non-residential, you are billed for 1 ERU, but if your flow rate based on your monthly winter consumption exceeds 695, you are billed a surcharge for that 100 cubic feet over 695. That bit was not correctly encapsulated in the last rate schedule. We did not change the 800 to the 695, and we left it under operations, which it actually should have been placed under county charges, county treatment charges, because that is directly passed through from the city to the county. We have to give them the calculations when, Debbie?
I'm working on them right now,
So
May is usually the time that I submit.
and then they take those calculations, and when they do they expect to collect from us that additional funding based on those additional funds based on those calculations that would be applied for the next year. So it's a cleanup. There was also one oversight on the water, and that was a Scrivener's error that was not caught. If you look under the commercial service irrigation consumption, in the original, it was listed as the tiers were up to 72,000 cubic feet. There should have been 22,000 cubic feet. I don't think that has not affected anybody because nobody's commercial irrigation service is on. That's what it was before. That was just a cut and paste error. So the only things that are changing in this whole thing are under sewer system charges. We had changed commercial service fees to non-residential because that's both commercial and industrial. And then we moved the service fee from operations down to the county treatment operations fee. And then entered in the correct number of units, et cetera, et cetera. So that will come back to you for next month for consideration and approval. Should you have any questions on, contract, reviewing the contract, it's all in, this is all driven by the county contract. Please feel free to ask Debbie. We did have Welch come and take a look at this. So Welch verified that we are billing correctly based on the contract, et cetera, and this should make sure that everything in our rate schedule jives with the contract or the interlocal agreement that we have with Spokane County. Questions for myself or Debbie on this one?
The per 100 cubic foot price went up too.
Yes.
It was $1.86 before, and when I was calculating it out, I go, I don't think so. I think we're not recouping what we're supposed to. And so Ashley and I both looked at it, and it was actually $2.25
But that's not per cubic foot, that's per 100 cubic foot.
per 100.
Yes, sir.
Again, I appreciate your hard negotiating with the county to spread out that increase over a number of years instead of hitting it all this year. Thanks.
Sean?
So Debbie, you said that you're working actively on the rate changes. When do you think it'll be finalized? Is that like in a week or two? I mean, are we looking at this being implemented by June, or I guess we haven't?
Well, that's what I'm hoping for.
Okay.
So the numbers that she's compiling now are the winter flow numbers from the non-residential units. So she'll get those averages of those services, and you send those off to the county.
Correct.
And that tells the county how much they need to know, and then that is what we will bill off of those numbers next year.
Okay, fair.
So yeah, we use that magic average number for the year, and it's just the same number over and over. It's not a rolling average, it's that 1 year average. All right, with no other questions on item B, that moves us to, item C. That moves us to item D, which is the resolution 2025, amend the credit card policies, and this says consideration requested. So who's got this one? Mr. Wurst, is this you? Or is this, I think it's Brian. We'll say Brian.
Yep, trying to find mute is difficult apparently. So I'll queue it up. If the council has any questions, by all means, feel free to chime in. So the council has been working, I would say, quite diligently over the last, is this May? Probably at least the last month, a little over the last month. Excuse me, to update the city's credit card use policy, to tighten it up, to require additional actions, to limit credit card, per the policy, to limit credit card availability and usage. The city's already implemented a number of those that we were memorializing in the revised policy itself. I kind of feel like it's odd to educate the council on a document that was living, breathing, and actively developed by them. So I'm not sure if I need to go into any details about the policy. The council's well aware of it, and that's why we asked to put this resolution 2025-08 in the credit card policies for consideration requested. Happy to answer any questions from the council.
Well, council have any questions regarding implementation as of this point on what's been implemented? I think Debbie can run through kind of what the status is on those if you would desire to do that.
The credit cards have been closed for certain accounts. I myself being one of them, because you can't administer your own credit card. And then we've really tightened it up with more monthly reports to council and allowed uses and so forth. So I think it's a good policy. I really do.
So I
You guys
think-
did a great job.
So I think we're down to 3 cards.
3 cards.
Plus, we have moved all of the gas charges to our own, so we have gone to fleet charges, so there are no fueling charges on the credit cards anymore. And that allows you to track the fueling to a specific vehicle. So no receipts turned in that are just emptied out for a particular vehicle, an unidentified vehicle.
Yeah.
Anything else?
I think I was just gonna, if I could add one thing, Mayor, I was just gonna point out, I want to make sure it's on the record and everybody understands, per the council's directive, the credit cards now will be reconciled on a weekly basis by the credit card administrator. I realize that's probably going to put a little work on staff that are using credit cards and administrator, but that's just one thing that was had to happen in the council's opinion. And you know, failure to reconcile, failure to submit the bill, the backup and the support for it will, you know, we kind of leaned on Council Member Van Heese's experience with his own corporate credit card at this point. One violation and the card's withdrawn, so it's tightened up a little bit. So, no, I'm not saying Council Member Van Heese violated his corporate credit card policy. They have a weekly reconciliation, and
They're very strict.
one late process, and that's it. Yep. So, yep.
The last is all subscriptions have been consolidated under one card. So we don't have any distributed subscriptions. Everybody lives under anything for any software, anything for any vendor services, all lives under one card.
And this takes effect as soon as it's approved, Brian?
Yes, it does.
So any other questions or comments by the council? So you have asked for
I think this was a necessary step, not the only step we're taking, but I think this was a good first step.
And I would like to make a public comment about the two-touch method. This really circumvents the two-touch, but that's, we were participatory. So this is the first public reading, but this is far from the first reading and knowledge for the council. We're, as I say, involved in writing it, so.
So at this time, because this has been asked for consideration, I would ask council, is there a motion on this resolution?
I'll make a motion to adopt resolution 2025-08 for the Millwood City Hall credit card policy.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing or hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Resolution 2025-08 is passed unanimously. Thank you very much.
And when will the documented education take place of the new policy that just happened? Yes.
We'll let the administrator schedule that.
Sure.
So that closes out our items for first reading and brings us to our action items for consideration. Our first action item for consideration is the consent agenda, which has a lot of special meeting minutes in there, at least 5 of them, plus the April 2025 Treasurers Report, the April claims, the April payroll, the April 25th Arbor Day proclamation, and beautification and tree board appointments of Nick Berger and Cody Rollins. And then there is a resolution in there for surplus property, which follows our standard surplus property resolutions. Would any member of the council like to take any of those items separate?
No.
With no member looking to take any items separately, do I have a motion on the consent agenda tonight as presented?
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda for this evening as presented.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Yes, how about Arbor Day?
It was wonderful. We have pictures, and which I'm happy to share with you. And it was a beautiful river birch that Kyle and team planted. So beautiful ceremony.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Hearing none opposed, consent agenda is approved unanimously tonight. Thank you. So that brings us to item B, a special event permit application for the West Valley Education Foundation, the Cornhole Tournament. Lisa, you want to run through that one quick?
This is the second look at that, and everything is still in great order. It was a great first quarter of this application, very thorough. And this was the one that we found out the information on the raffle. So that, as was asked by Shauna, so that is the answer to that. And it's been approved by Kyle, and he and Eric have discussed fencing, and they have all of that figured out, I think, or will get finalized. So everything's good. It'll be a fun
I
day.
actually think it was Dan that pointed out the raffle, just for
Oh,
public
was it?
record.
Oh, okay.
Well, since I was ready to approve this as part of Millwood Days, we approve the special event application for West Valley Education Foundation.
I second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing or hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none opposed. The application is approved unanimously. Thank you. So that brings us to item C, Resolution 2025-04, the Historic Preservation Commission meeting schedule. Go, thank you.
Second look at this one as well. The only thing changing on this was the date and time. They're going to start meeting at 2:00 on the second Monday of each month. And so far, that's been going very well. The meeting for May, though, however, has been canceled. The chair is out of town, so that's not going to happen. But that's the only change in that one.
I make a motion to approve the new historic commission's schedule.
Second?
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing or hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? None opposed. The meeting schedule for Historic Preservation Commission is approved for 2025. We have to adopt this every year, Brian, right? The schedule for meeting schedule, or is it the same until it changes?
Same until it changes. You've got it codified for the council. You've got it codified in your city code.
So not for 2025.
So this will change, this will amend the city code, correct? Oh, he's frozen. All right, well, we can figure that out later. No big deal. All right. Ordinance 544, which is adoption by reference of the Spokane County off-street parking and loading standards. This has come before council a few times. Do we want to have any further discussion of this? My understanding is all of the desired changes requested by the council have been made. So I would look to ask if there is any council member who wishes to provide any input on this at this time. Not hearing anything, so is there a motion on ordinance 544 as presented?
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance 544 as presented.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing or hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Hearing none opposed, ordinance 544 regarding off-street parking and loading standards is approved. Thank you. So that concludes our action items for this evening, and that brings us to our reports. Yes?
I lost Brian. Just so you know.
Like gone?
I'd just like to mention that the moose is in our backyard.
Oh, wow.
Oh, really?
Moose update.
Hopefully the kids will capture that moose and we'll eat it.
It was across the street from us.
So
He's got to
we need the squirrel so you can have Rocky and Bullwinkle.
Exactly.
Trouble for moose and squirrel. All right, so
Have that in my hat.
we have got nothing on my sleeve. So treasurer's report tonight, Ms. Mackin.
Yes, can you put my report up there?
Oh,
Lisa broke the computer.
And got rid of Brian.
but Brian is, well, he froze and then he dropped off. I don't know. I'm assuming it's a connection issue, but he'll have to join back.
It's that inappropriate filter.
In an effort to get down to one page. This is what I have, but I really feel like maybe it's not enough detail. How do you feel about that?
I think we're getting closer.
We're getting closer. Okay, good. So looking at January, you'll see this big number drop in. That is your beginning balances. So they drop in January. Then your expenditures and everything, it flows through. You'll see negatives down on your gain and loss. This is very common. This happens because a lot of stuff we only get quarterly or twice a year. And so you're gonna operate in a negative for a while until the money drops in and then you're flush again. And it'll do that several times throughout the year. So I don't want you to be alarmed.
Okay.
I was able to pull the reserves out and show them. So what you're earning and such, you'll notice there's no expenditure under 301 or 302 because those are your capital funds and are highly restricted. So that's the stuff that's gonna have to be in your comp plan and your, well, there's a whole number of things that REIT 1 has to be hooked up with. Are there any questions that I can
So,
answer?
Deb, I have a question, like 402 water capital fund managerial. How come in January there's 0, February 0, March? So we're not operating a capital
No,
fund?
there's a unit dropped in there and then, oh,
Yeah.
yeah, I see what you're saying. Oh, no, 402 started out with 328,000. That's correct. And then the managerial, that shouldn't say capital fund. I apologize for that. That should just say sewer treatment managerial. Because remember, we took everything out that was not subject to a regular operating budget and account for it differently now.
Okay.
And if you see 002, that's the managerial account that I started to push all those restricted taxes into.
Okay.
Because we have to track the incoming and expense of those because they're restricted by definition and use.
Okay, so going back to 402,
Mm-hmm.
He's trying.
That's that 300,000, that's what we've saved for so far out of that cap, that
I think you're
Capital
looking at
improvement
revenue side, and
$305.
he's wondering why nothing's been expended.
Oh, because we haven't spent any of it yet.
Was
Yeah,
that- was
it's a
that your question?
capital,
yeah,
so there's no expense there yet, because you haven't spent any.
okay.
And same for January in the sewer treatment. Now you'll see there is stuff coming out of it. After that, that's your sewer treatment payment.
Was that your question though,
Yeah,
Kelly?
that was my
Okay.
question, yeah, so I guess, yeah, general fund expenditures, be nice to see more detail.
I thought that too. And
Yeah.
so if I do the C4, which has more detail, it's 3 pages.
Okay,
Would you guys be okay with that?
well, what if we did like payroll, just the general large expenses, right? So, doesn't have to be 3 pages, but, you know, we have extra space here. So if we took large categories, the C4 I saw was too detailed. So if you could just take it, you know, we have payroll, things like that,
Well,
just,
so,
so it's a fine line.
can I point something out?
Sure.
That's the first page of the treasurer's report.
Okay.
That says everything that came in, went out, what hasn't, I'm sorry, what has cleared the bank, what hasn't cleared the bank, it's all there on that first page.
Okay.
And then the second page is showing where it balances to the bank.
Okay.
So that may be
Okay.
an option
Mhm.
to give at council.
Sure, I think so.
I'll send it to you.
Okay.
We'll look at it.
Sounds good, perfect, thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you, Deb. So we will move on to our clerk, public records and code enforcement from Ms. Castles.
All right, well, I'll prepare a couple of the resolutions and then sent them to Brian for review. Routed several contracts this month for signatures, prepared the agendas and so forth for City Council, Planning Commission, and Historic Preservation. Also worked on a certificate of occupancy for Whistle Punk Brewing with Amanda, and assisted her with research, scheduling, invoicing, and several planning requests. Historic Preservation mailed out 69 letters created by the commission to the historic district homes and businesses with information about the 100-year-old program of home recognition that they have for the decals, and also information on how to register for local register. And coordinated materials, gathered them up and coordinated with Historic Preservation. They're going to do a booth at the Farmers Market on the 28th to raise awareness about Millwood's historic district and the Historic Preservation Commission. Public records, we've had 9 total for the year, 3 since the last meeting. Those have since all been completed. Code enforcement, still working on a fence height violation, still have a few excessive trash violations. One of those will be going to abatement soon. And a commercial business with no trash receptacle, unauthorized car parking, and a couch in the right of way, which that was fun. And miscellaneous, working on backflow. The backflow tests are coming in pretty heavy right now, so I've been pretty busy with that because the due date is the 6th, so we're working a lot on that. Doing a lot of right-of-way permits, land use permits, business licensing, approved 25 general business licenses and non-resident licenses, mailed out 3 letters to home businesses to verify what the type of business that they have there, did the raffle thing, and that's about it.
Questions for Lisa on any of those items? Any of her multi-hats that she is wearing?
Thank you for the detailed report.
Yes, thank you very much.
Excellent. Thank you very much. So, facilities, Mr. Shiwi.
First, I'll touch on the updates for our Empire traffic calming and the TIB update. Last month, if you remember, just a little refresher, I was talking to the lady from Spokane County. She said chip seal's not going to work out there from the concrete at the intersection to the railroad spur because of all the heavy truck traffic and turning and everything in there. So she recommended a 2-inch asphalt overlay over that section. And we weren't sure about funding for that or anything. Well, she went back and crunched some numbers and stuff, and we took it to TIB, and they've been awesome. I got nothing bad to say about it. Like between the county and TIB and us, I mean, I'm really happy to be in this relationship with them because they're great. TIB came back and they agreed to pay the additional. The initial amount for the chip seal and everything on Empire on your second page here, the initial amount was $80,000. She came, after her numbers came back with the overlay and everything, it had gone up. Their contribution would be $108,555, and so we're already obligated to pay 5% of that. So initially, we're going to pay about a little over $4,200 for the chip seal. So with the additional, our total amount that we will owe out of pocket is $5,713. So just barely over $1,500 extra to get all that asphalt put in there. So I mean, I was as happy as a pig in crap, you know. I mean,
Don't screw that relationship up.
I'm trying not to. So that's where we're at on that. I forgot to put them in my notes here, but she was talking like the overlay crew would probably be in sometime tentatively around the middle to end of June. And then or actually, no, I take that back. I think it was May, because it was planned out to be done before Liberty mows in.
Oh,
So I think the asphalt's gonna be done before Liberty mows in, and then it was gonna be the middle end of June, I believe, for the chip seal to start on the rest of it, which shouldn't be affected, because they'll be farther away from all this action going on over here.
Yeah.
So that is the update on the chip seal and all that stuff. Who wants to talk about traffic speed humps?
Oh, man, let's talk about it.
Sounds like they've had a desired effect to some degree.
Yes, I mean, everything that we've heard from the residents so far, they love them. The only irritated people are the ones that are flying over them and hurting their vehicles
Or they're back.
or their backs. You know, I've talked with Debbie today, and we still have quite a bit of budget left that we could use. If you guys wanna go for more double speed humps, I talked to Matt about it. We're a little hesitant because obviously we are plowing the roads as well, and we're not super confident yet on how much more work that's gonna make for us trying to keep that area clean from snow removal, but
What if you did singles?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
If you put a single where it straightens out, because that's quite a distance, and they really pick up speed from the speed hump to Woodruff.
right.
So if we threw one there where it straightens out, and then maybe one at the beginning.
Yeah, single I think will be fine.
Okay, I think,
You know, the double works really well.
It does work
It
very,
does
very
work very
effectively, gentlemen. Yeah, I like it very much. But I think a single is effective too. The other thing that we could do is do that fake second one, just with the painting, so they think there's a second one, but there isn't. It's just paint.
yeah, and I mean, it's something that.
They don't apply all the time.
It's something that we could potentially do this year, you know, and not really have to go back out to bid because we already have our lowest bidder by a considerable amount.
Yeah.
It might fluctuate a hair if, you know, oil or asphalt or material prices have gone up over the last couple months, but I mean, it's ultimately up to the public and up to you guys.
I go that way to work every morning, and I come home that way, and I don't mind slowing down to 15.
No? I'm
I
in
don't think
favor.
any of the residents do. So
No.
had nothing but positive feedback from
Yeah,
them.
I mean, I was a little hesitant about the West Valley School bus drivers, you know, and we were out there Thursday after they opened them up, and one of the bus drivers stopped, and he's like, "When are you gonna put more in?" He's like, "I love them." He's like, "I try to take up the middle of the road when I drop kids off and pick kids up because people are flying around me," and he's like, "It's chaos." And he said there's 2 other bus drivers besides him that do that route. He said he would ask their opinions, but he was very confident that they would feel the same way.
I think there's a couple things. The only thing I'd say is that if you're gonna look, singles would probably be easier if you're going to get from Woodruff down to Butler.
Yep.
That would be singles. You would then be looking at ditching the raised intersections because that's a lot of speed control. Now
Yeah.
that's fine and that's good. The only other thing I would say to your point about not going out again is we need to determine if that is acceptable under public works contracting or not. So we may have to do a bid process, but if we do it again, we should be able to write it in such a way that we can have follow-on. Because I don't think there's any follow-on in this contract, is there?
I'm not sure what that means.
I mean, that they can repeat the process again and again. It's kind of an open-ended,
Oh, okay.
because we bid it for one amount and that was it, right?
Yeah, and I didn't know what the results were gonna be, so I kinda left it like that. I mean, I was totally in favor of emailing them back, say, hey, well, you do another set for the same price or close to there, you know?
You could recycle that bid document and then just basically say a minimum of 1, a maximum of
30.
whatever. 30. I think the other thing is to remember that whatever you put there as it works, you're gonna want other people asking for it. So I like the idea of the single because the doubles aren't gonna work everywhere.
Exactly.
And so anything that is asked for there is gonna get asked for other places. And so I think it needs to be a uniform or at least equal approach other places.
So I like the theory of the single, but could you please check with an engineer, because I'm recalling Matt Ellis's presentation, and I think the two actually gives you the desired. So can we just double check with an engineer before we go like, hey, because there might be some engineering pieces in there.
Yeah, I think the whole theory behind the double hump is, your suspension's compressing off that first one.
That's exactly
and it
the
just gives
videos
you
that they showed made it seem like the second one wasn't just an optional feature for the desired effect. So I just would like an engineer to be
And
included.
that makes sense. It's fairly aggressive to what I think will have our desired effect. But yeah, let's look at it.
But I mean, I do like the idea if it can be achieved cost efficiency. Yeah, I mean, I'd like to replicate that. I mean,
Mostly it just has to do with height and distance.
I
And
know
so,
when I first brought you there was an option for a single, but it was more of like a tabletop single, but I think
Exactly.
that was because we're incorporating the crosswalk into it.
yes, when the crosswalk was going to be on top, when the crosswalk was going to be an integral feature of the speed hump design, that has to be a tabletop.
I just remember the video being very clear that the two hump system was.
I have
Integral.
several of our own videos on my phone as we speak.
Yeah.
Anything else, Kyle?
No, so that was it on the speed humps. I'll look into those, I guess, and we can revisit it at the next meeting.
Great.
So AAA came out at night and got Argonne all swept and the sidewalks washed off. And then I had them come again this last Thursday, and they got the curb streets and stuff after that last round of maple tree debris all over the place, and to kind of prep for that Mother's Day parade that was over there. We also demoed out a 22-foot section of sidewalk I spoke about last month in front of 3306 Dale. It was too high for the grinders to grind, and we poured that back and got that all done in time for the Mother's Day deal. There's 4 more locations called out on that precision concrete document when we had them do that whole grinding project. And I went back out last week and highlighted those and got lineal footage of those. And if budget and time allows this year, I'd like to knock them all out, but we'll just have to see how it goes. I am going to get at least one more here fairly soon, I believe. And so if we can get all 4 of those knocked out, that'll be the majority of our large tripping hazards that we have as far as sidewalks related. Arbor Day, as she was saying, was a success. We got the river birch in the ground and doing well. Had a little bit better turnout, I think, this year than years past. I think I roughly counted 17-ish people, which is about 10 more than normal. Also, I got to meet a couple people interested in joining the tree board, one of which was the Nicholas that you guys agreed to appoint. And then Cody, I think, was working, so he couldn't join. There was one other guy there that hasn't submitted a formal request yet that he had showed interest in joining as well. So that's good, because a lot of our ones that we have now, our current ones, are wishing to move on. So that's good that we got some new energy for that. The water's turned on to the park and the restrooms are open. We've received the new merry-go-round, and it came in damaged.
Oh my God.
It was literally busting out of the crate before we even took it off the truck. We took it and got it off, and they sent out a inspector to take pictures and document everything and how the crate was assembled and this and that. And he was going to file a report, and I haven't heard back from that. He said maybe as soon as this last Friday I would hear from him. I didn't hear anything, so I'm hoping I hear something from him this week about that. I think he had conversations about they might just give us a whole new one, or we'll just itemize the pieces that are damaged and they'll send out new pieces. So I'm waiting to hear back on that. I don't know if you guys were over checking out our super cool humps or not, but I also installed a small bench in the Arboretum.
Yep.
And a dog poop station. It's been mentioned to us several times by residents over the last couple of years now, so I figured might as well we'll get that in there. There was some existing concrete there from an old railroad thing or something, and we just kind of anchored them down to that.
We sat there the other night.
Perfect.
Yep.
And then,
The view of the double speed humps.
and then under miscellaneous, I've filed several annual reports like the highway performance monitoring system updates for the Millwood roads, which the only real roads that we have on them is Argonne, Empire, and Euclid. Also did our winter maintenance report and sent that into Spokane Regional Clean Air, which keeps track of the amount of sand and de-icer we put down each season and how we clean it up in the spring. And then, with the approval next month of the 6-year plan, we'll get that turned in by the end of June. And finally, all 4 of us field guys went and got our first aid training all recerted and up to date.
Excellent.
That's what I did. We were kind of busy.
Thanks, Kyle. Mr. Erdahl, utilities.
All right, we took a sample at Old Park and it came back clean, so we got that as our lead pump with more water being pumped. All the routine samples came back satisfactory. We did our first round of PFAS samples at Old Park and they all came back good. I was kind of stressing about that, but showed up good. We had a meeting with potential developers for the old Bank of America property. And when they had their workers in the building, they had a leak. So we went in, took the meter out and just capped that because there's nobody in there. And we'll figure out what they're gonna do with the building and put that back together. All of our backflows are in, so we're ready to start irrigating. We did a water and sewer inspection at 10218 East Empire where they abandoned or tore that house down. So they abandoned those lines. And we did an inspection on a grease trap at the Whistle Punk, because that little house they have there, they're gonna turn into a kitchen and start making pizza, selling it out of there. And Pacific Power was out doing routine maintenance on the City Hall and New Park generators.
Any questions for Matt? Thank you very much. So,
Did Dan have one?
Oh, that's all right.
oh, sorry, no, go
Sorry,
ahead. No,
sorry.
I didn't see the
You
hand.
just mentioned, the larger meters, 2 inch and larger, or inch and a half, or,
I think probably 1.5 inches.
Yeah.
I got a list of them.
and if somebody's going to come test them, we're just gonna replace them, or?
Prestige, I think it is. They have all the equipment to come out.
Good, good,
Any other questions?
thank you.
Excellent. So, next is the planning report. Ms. Tanyo cannot be here tonight, but she has included a detailed planning report on that. We are, just as a note, we are moving toward, on the steering committee of elected officials, we are moving toward approving and submitting for the county the land capacity analysis, all that sort of good stuff that will become part of the comprehensive plan update. We are done, so we have met our obligation and just waiting for some other municipalities and some other things to be done, and then that will move forward by the
What
end
was
of
the number of units that ended up being settled on? Cause it was 49 and then it went up to 100 and something, and they were still settling on it through your steering committee.
So I think where they are is, last time was the settle on the HAPT number, and I don't remember, I'd have to pull it off I'd have to pull it up on my laptop. For us, it did not change. For the county and for city of Spokane, they are still looking at some significant issues because some of the developers are having pushback on, is that gonna, is what is asked for deliverable given the model that is there? Because you have some folks like Jim Frank who does not believe that what is being prescribed in the documents is actually achievable, nor will it achieve the desired effects. So I think there is some lobbying there. I think there's some lobbying with City of Spokane because obviously they're going to be the lead dog driver because of HUD. all the HUD money comes through City of Spokane. A lot of it just, in all honesty, depends on what's gonna come out of Olympia. The next goal, I met with, Councilmember Cathcart from City of Spokane. They are going to bring in, or there's going to be the attempt to bring in all of our district legislators, representatives and senators to come to the steering committee and listen to not only us as jurisdictional advocates, but have the housing people come in, home builders, transportation, and basically try and communicate to the state legislative team what are things to take away to go back to Olympia. Because we can come up with all the rules we want, but they are gonna pass back there what they're gonna pass, and then it's just go forward.
So when you say our number didn't change, did it not change from the minimum of 49, or did it not change from the maximum of 104?
Change from the minimum of 49.
Very nice.
But you still have targets to meet by different housing units. And Amanda does a very good job of explaining, we have some of them covered, we don't have all of them covered, and so there still needs to be some work in the city, particularly with mixed use type buildings, to deliver those other types of units, which I can't remember what bucket they fall into, but there are still some hurdles that council is going to have to look at, and planning commission is going to have to look at during the comp plan amendment recycle to make some of those items more enticing to construct. And that's and by enticing, it has to do with parking and parking requirements and setbacks and things like that. So there still is some finagling on our part within our own code to try and achieve what we need to achieve without having a lot of things. There will be things that are pushed on us, but you would hope that it would not be everything. Yes, yes.
There is still the discrepancy. There's a 106 number.
Oh, 106.
And a 49. One is units, one is people. And there's still talk of that. Amanda has been getting a lot of information. Planning Commission has been debating, talking about this a lot. And Amanda has brought in extra information all meetings, and again has been asked to get more information for the next one. So still a lot of discussion about that in the Planning Commission meetings.
And we still have Millwood, obviously not this year, but in the next few years is gonna have to address either through agreement or somehow things like permanent supportive housing, emergency housing. How are you going to demonstrate, how is this municipality going to demonstrate that they have some sort of cooperative agreement or place or something like that to meet still those numbers that the housing availability that we have here won't meet those requirements. We don't have permanent supportive housing. We don't have emergency housing because we don't have any hotels. We don't have anything like that. So I don't know if it's going to be something as simple as pointing at City of the Valley and going, well, they have it and they have extra, or if you're going to have to craft interlocal agreements.
Yeah, that's what I thought they were going with, an interlocal. I mean, it's infeasible for us to have a
Absolutely.
new infrastructure.
Absolutely. So that still waits to be seen, and a lot of that still has to do with legislation that will come forward from Olympia. Mr. Worst, do you have any comments from legal?
I think it's frozen.
Okay, there we go. I'm back. It took so much effort to get logged back in. I feel like I should have comments and I don't. My hands were on a fair portion of the agenda. Just want to express my appreciation for council's work over the last month, especially on the revised policy, credit card policy, and that's all I have. Lisa and I have been in touch quite a bit on code enforcement, and still trying to work through a number of issues that way. So,
month for the mayor was primarily getting, make sure that the resolution revisions to water and sewer and, I don't remember anymore. Water and sewer and actually that was it. Water and sewer and then, other miscellaneous items that had come through. Some personnel issues. We had a few people that were ill for a while that caused a bit of a backlog in City Hall that folks worked very diligently once both they returned and the folks that were here to go through. We are going to send Mr. Daniel Hecox to MRSC's financial boot camp in July. So he will get the financial boot camp treatment and get that run through. Otherwise, a lot of it was also ensuring that we were on point and target for what we need to do for outreach for Argonne. And we still have other meetings. There will be a meeting, now that I have communicated with Mr. Gillis, there will be a meeting set up with IEP where we will provide for them the necessary information that they had requested. Emergency access plan, should that ever be necessary, ability to understand means and methods of construction on their facility and some level of timing so they have an idea at least that they can plan out in the future. For that, still working with Matt to make sure, we're still working with Welch to make sure that that comes in and we facilitate that meeting and get that done. That should be done right after the street walk by the parties. We just have to confirm with IEP as to their availability to meet. And that is it from me this time. So,
Mayor, one question.
yeah,
Is the sheriff's vehicle branded Millwood?
the livery, the SVG files that were necessary for the livery were sent to Spokane County, the sheriff's office, month before last. I don't know what their timing is. I know that they're supposed to, they have everything they need to engineer the stickers and the branding and everything. All that is done and posted.
Let's get a timeline, please.
Nope, that is all taken care of and done. I am just waiting to hear back that it is out there. What I will say is it is nice that we have a deputy in town because we have more sheriff's vehicles parked out there on a regular basis than we have had in a long time. And yeah, that seems to be working. We are having more people communicate. One of the issues that we are having apparently is a lot of the neighbors, and I'm not sure on the east side, but a lot of the neighbors on the west side are becoming more concerned with the use of mini bikes and dirt bike motorcycles running up and down the streets unplated. Typically what happens is that is done after our deputy is off shift, but I have spoken with deputy and we are going to arrange some other times for the regular patrol deputy to maybe take a pass through during that and have some education to folks on is that a correct is that allowed sort of thing.
Not street legal.
Not street legal. And so, yes, they are not street legal. What I would say is, at least they seem to be wearing helmets. So that is at least a minor positive, but no, we need to have somebody do some education for that, and it always comes better from the sheriff's office than somebody yelling off their porch. So that concludes the reports from me and everyone else. Council information, you do have Deputy Ball's report for March and April in the packet, and Councilmember Color, which was approved many long years ago.
Yeah, I've kind of been attending the meetings. They didn't say anything.
Yeah, so that is,
Official now, I got
you,
the
you
email,
are
so,
official
yeah.
and done, so the county takes forever to get a seal on that. So it is, okay, so, now we are at public remarks. What do we have signed in this evening?
So did they,
I don't know.
I'll add this one real quick.
I got the picture.
it's pretty gnarly.
Is it just bone?
The degloved figure.
All right. So,
It isn't
we
pretty.
have, so first, before we have folks come up, we have, Ms. Boone's remarks that were presented at the April meeting and then were emailed
Yes, she wanted,
again, so those are in there.
Yes.
Have we received any others?
No.
At that time. All right, so we have 3 individuals signed in tonight for, public remarks. First is, Ms. BC.
Bobby Beasy, 3303 North Argonne. I had a few comments, all concerning the Argonne project. When we had the public meeting here in City Hall, we were assured that everything was going to be done for keeping the Christmas tree and that there would be an arborist on site during when digging and stuff was going on. And looking through the instructions to contractors and stuff, we can't see anywhere where the arborist is mentioned, so.
We have in our meetings with Welch, voiced that is a very critical part of the project, that remains, and they are very aware of it.
Okay, that's good. We gotta give it our best shot to
So-
to save that
So
tree.
we will have, I think one of the things is that I think, we will have our own arborist there as a consultant, because we're gonna bring back Jim Flout for that, is what my understanding was. And so the city will actually have an arborist there, and if the contractor wishes to have one, that's fine, but it's more like quality assurance versus quality control. The contractor does quality control, the city does quality assurance. So our arborist will be there to perform quality assurance. We'll look at the root mat and do it, the setbacks were incorporated in the drawing, and that's what we're gonna do.
And we also have that street tree that's probably has its roots tangled up with the other one, so it could get a little complicated, and it'd be good to have a professional involved. The other thing is still the pedestrian scale street lights that we're putting in for the businesses. Could find nothing in any of the instructions to the contractors other than Spokane standard. That doesn't give us much of an idea of what they're gonna look like. It'd set a lot of us a little more at ease if we could see a picture of what style posts are going in there. We're doing this is one of the few things that the businesses are getting as a plus for all of this confusion and discomfort that's going on. It'd
You're
be
talking
nice.
the ones on the west side of the road, right in front of your businesses.
Yes, the ones that are going in the
They are
sidewalk.
decorative.
But decorative how?
So,
Do we have a picture somewhere that we could get on that website maybe or something?
Yeah, there is. I'll make a note of it to have them put on there.
That'd be great. That'd be cool. And then my other comment is now and through the duration of this project, more information is better. Don't worry about confusing us with too much information. My life is going to be pretty miserable for the next 3 months, I think, with heavy equipment within 10 feet of my front windows. More information is better. I'll feel better if I know what's going on and what to expect. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
So for the record, please note that Ms. BC is also a member of the Millwood Planning Commission. So our next one is Mr. Mott, Greg Mott.
Greg Mott, 3301 North Argonne, the corner door. A couple of comments. Number one, I want to thank the city of Millwood for the very fine job that they did with their street cleaning efforts and their sidewalk cleaning efforts and all the other stuff. It's certainly the best that it's looked in many, many years. And I really appreciate that, and I'm sure everybody else that walked the sidewalks appreciates it as well. Number two, my concerns about the road project. For the last month, I have every day looked at the Millwood website looking for that page. That page was not there. I kept wondering, well, when's the project going to start? Couldn't find any information until last week. I finally sent an email and got an answer on that respect. I find the businesses up and down the street, same thing. They expected construction to start yesterday until they found out otherwise. Well, they're planning for their business, got drug out. Okay, fine. Delays. We understand delays, but we should have known there was a delay. We should know if it is June 9th. If it is not going to be June 9th and it gets pushed off a week or two, hopefully we will find that out. And it won't be a secret until somebody shows up out front with a concrete cutter or something. Information is important. Information, information, information. You will note that tonight you are inventing your information. What goes on the website? What gets, it seemed several months a little late to me. We're talking days from this project, and now we're inventing how we're going to communicate about the project. Your walkthrough that you talk about is 10 or 12 days before they start. So you're going to talk to businesses and say, hey, in 10 or 12 days, we're going to come, we're going to tear up your front, your customers aren't going to get in here, we're going to impact your business, lay off a couple of employees because you're going to be half shut down, whatever the case may be. We need that information, and we need it as soon as we can get it. And we need it throughout the project. What days are Euclid going to be closed? What days is Dalton going to be closed? What days is Liberty going to be closed? What days are they working right in front of our business? What days are they working across the street? We're going to need to know that information up front. So that's my comment. Please, please, let us know the information. Let us know as soon as it's available. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And lastly, we have LaDonna Demet.
LaDonna Demet, 10306 East Empire. Want to talk about, of course, the humps. We're glad that it's there finally. Frank made a comment though, when you're coming down in the dark, heading down the hill this way, you can't really see the white lines in the dark, and because it sits between the two between those street lights, he says, so it's hard to see it. So that's just a comment that maybe those need to be reflective and more out farther.
Okay. Yeah, they put some glass beads on top of it.
But maybe out a little farther when you're coming down the hill. That's just a suggestion, because he saw that when he drove down there. So, but we do want more of the double humps, because you guys did a plan that you were thinking about doing that, and now you want to take it away, and it was supposedly under budget. So why can't we have at least one more set of double humps? And you guys don't live on our street down where we're at. People still, the police presence maybe helps a little bit, but we haven't noticed that much of the traffic slowing down. I'm retired now. I'm out there a lot. It's going 40 plus all the time, still running the stop sign. So you guys have to know, that. And then the other thing, I have to agree with, sorry, I just get upset when I'm passionate about it. But I agree with the businesses for this whole Argonne project, which I personally think is a joke. I don't understand it. No one's ever explained why you wanted to put that turn lane in there for 14 cars an hour, right? Isn't that what I was on the plans? And, sorry. And you're sending more traffic now down our way with it when we've been asking for calming for 20 plus years. And, shoot, there was something else I was going to say. Oh, but then the whole thing too is now our taxes are going up because the mill got reassessed, or the paper mill got reassessed, and now it's going to come back on us because I think some of you guys didn't do your homework or whatever. It's just very disappointing. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So the one thing I do want to address out of your comments is the mill reassessment has nothing to do with the city. The mill.
Then why is our taxes going up 30%?
Because the mill went to the county and availed themselves of the county's mechanism to assess. Millwood does not assess properties. Thank you very much, and that closes the comments. Okay, so that takes us out. Is there anybody else wish to make comments? Second call for public comments. Third and final call for public comments. Seeing none, we will close the public comment period, and we will move to council remarks. Mr. Stravens.
Thank you, staff. Everything looks good. Thanks for all the hard work. We appreciate it.
Second that motion.
Yeah, I appreciate everything everybody's done, and I think the more traffic calming, the better.
Agreed, more double humps.
I also very much appreciate staff, but I actually have some comments as well. First of all, I want to say that the Mother's Day thing went out very spectacular. There was over 900 people who took over our streets, and I felt like we really put our best foot forward, so it was super honoring. I also want to mention something. I am following up to something I had promised I would do here, a public record, which was that I was going to start my new little news, like health neighboring blurb in the newsletter, and then also we would make sure that the council put together 2 bullets telling everybody on the monthly basis what we're doing to close the loop on the SOA. In following up on that work, I actually found out that the water bill newsletter is only published quarterly, so I will be absolutely doing my neighborhood as a health intervention newsletter in there. We will also be updating about the council activities on that, but I do want to say that, as you've heard here, we have had the investigation, and we're doing the forensic investigation, and then also we have closed the loop on some of the findings as far as the credit card and stuff. So I wanted to get that on public record since we had collectively promised that. The second thing that I've been following up on is September 28th, way before I was born, well, maybe not way before I was born, but Jimmy Carter ushered into existence a holiday called Good Neighbor Day. And this is a national holiday, it's recognized, and I found out about this, and I wanted us to celebrate it this year. So I asked the mayor, can I put together a proclamation? Can we have a Good Neighborhood Day? And I found out that some people had some real excitement around it. So now it's turned into Great Neighborhood Week, and Hutton's probably going to sponsor something. The Masonic Lodge is going to sponsor something. We're going to have, I'm going to put together some like in-house activities that people can be doing around their kitchen table that kind of promote this good neighboring as a health intervention concept. The mayor has supported even us getting some banners across the walkway and stuff. So I reached out to the Good Neighborhood.org, the official organization, and they actually I said, hey, do you have any guidance on what I can do to like mock up maybe some of your social media assets and make it a banner? And they said, you know what, we're gonna go ahead and make that banner for you, and then we'll make the city and town editable so that everyone who wants to embark on a Good Neighborhood Week nationally can do that. So we're working with Mayor, and I will be following up on that in the next week or two, and then it will be sent over to Kyle to hopefully get that for something that we can reuse every year, because my hope is that this is not just a thing that we do once, that this is something that we proclaim every single year from here forward and such. So that's my big update.
Thank you, Shauna. I love that. That's great. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So announcements. Do we have any announcements? All right. So your next meeting is June the 10th at 6 p.m. And with that, does any council member have any other business before us? If not, do I have a motion for adjournment?
I'd make a motion to adjourn.
I second that.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
This meeting is adjourned.
I get to go to the hospital.
Bye, Ryan.
What, you got any? Are you
Yeah,
gonna do a root
picture.
cause analysis?
Tomorrow I will, not tonight.
Oh, you're the one that does the RCA's?
But the